Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be a Karen and complain about Disney movies. I'm just kidding. I'm not hating on all the Karens of the world because honestly, if you were named Karen, that's not your fault, but it is your fault if you yell at waiters and waitresses. Hey everyone, what is up? My name is Elissa and welcome back to my corner, and today we are talking about Disney movies and how they should all be canceled and we should be canceled for not canceling them. I'm just kidding. I don't want to say that because then I'll be canceled for making fun of cancel culture, and I'm too scared for that. With all jokes aside, I love Disney movies. You love Disney movies. Disney is a world-acclaimed movie producer. A world-acclaimed company that makes great movies that teach children things that are super, super important and also can teach adults things. And that's where this video centers around. There have been some Disney movies that I have picked up on that really teach everybody a lesson, including adults. Also, I do want to give a disclaimer that I am not saying that these elements shouldn't be in the Disney movies that I'm talking about. I'm just saying as an adult that I have recognized that these are part of the Disney movies now. I honestly think that sometimes it's better to depict these things in children's movies because I don't think we should shield children maybe as much as we do. I think there are important learning lessons in these movies with these dark themes that we can learn. I'm just noticing as an adult that they are there. So today, we're talking about the darkest Disney movies that we have overlooked as a society. So if that kind of video interests you, keep on watching. Lightning. Computer? Stop. So the first movie on my list of darkest Disney movies is Hunchback of Notre Dame. If you have watched Hunchback of Notre Dame, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This movie is as dark as they come. First of all, Frollo, he's gross. He's a gross person. Am I pronouncing that name right, though? Before I embarrass myself all over the internet, because you guys know I do that. If you saw my last video, which I'll link, I embarrassed myself with how I didn't pronounce the right words correctly, and I'm just so embarrassed, and I want to say sorry if you saw that video. First of all, he's lusting over, how old is Esmeralda? How old is she? She's 16. He's 36. Do you see what I'm talking about? It's just not something I want to see as a child. Better yet, as an adult. I just don't want to see that, you know? Like, there's even a scene where he's smelling her hair. Second point, Quasimodo hates himself, and I think that's a pretty big theme for a children's movie. The amount of self-hatred in Hunchback of Notre Dame is insane. The song itself is very self-deprecating and just very intense for a children's movie, and I'll include it right now. You are deformed. I am deformed. And you are ugly. And I am ugly. And I do want you to know that that song is what I listen to in the gym when I'm running. So, like, when it's saying that I'm deformed and I'm ugly, I'm running during this, and it is not the best thing to listen to. Also, Hunchback of Notre Dame deals with people looking different or being different and how we deal with that as a society, and I think that's really important to point out. And it's honestly why Hunchback of Notre Dame is one of my favorite movies or musicals of all time. It's because it deals with that so well, and it deals with the fact that, like, we don't deal with people who are differently. We don't really deal with it at all. We're very much like, oh, I'm against bullying, but then when it actually comes to real bullying, we don't really do anything about it. And honestly, sometimes we say we're against something and then we're actually not. And we can see that through actions. For example, in middle school, you know, everyone's like against bullying because it's cool and hip and the right thing to do. But then when it comes to people sitting alone at lunch tables and, you know, that weird kid from third period, no one seems to care about bullying. But that's kind of what Hunchback of Notre Dame tries to point out, is that just because someone looks different, we make fun of them. And I think that's super intense for a kid's movie. Not saying it shouldn't be in there, but it's just super intense. And finally, Hunchback of Notre Dame deals with religion And religion is such a big part of Hunchback of Notre Dame. And it's not to hate any religion out there. It's not to hate Christianity or whatever. But it's people who use their religion to hurt other people. And it deals with that in a kid's movie, which is insane. Second darkest Disney movie is Frozen. And I know this may come as a surprise to some people because Frozen, you wouldn't think it's that dark or deep. But when I watched Frozen, and maybe it's because I just relate to it myself, Frozen is dark and intense and adult. First of all, it deals with fear, and fear is such an intense emotion. And I'm someone who suffers from anxiety. I'm sure a lot of you out there suffer from anxiety and fear-related type of stuff. And fear is such an intense emotion. And in Frozen, it's like the fear of herself, which is so insane and so deep and so dark. And just like in Hunchback of Notre Dame, Frozen deals with self-hatred. She hates herself because she's different. She hates herself because she thinks she's a monster. And that obviously is very dark. Also, Frozen deals with a parent's death, or in this case, two parents' death. And I think Walt Disney himself lost his parents. I think his parents died. Don't quote me on that. But I think his parents died, and that's why a lot of the movies do have parent deaths in them. But obviously, that's very intense for a child. And so the fact that that's in the movie is kind of surprising and shocking. And also Frozen deals with isolation. She isolates herself for like years and years and years until she's ready to be queen. And that's so long if you really think about it, how long she's been isolated, how long she's felt alone, even internally. That's a long time. And just like internal isolation, external isolation, either way, that is deep, that's intense, and so for that to be in a Disney movie is surprising to me. And the third darkest Disney movie is Snow White, and this should not come as a surprise to anyone who remembers Snow White. I know it's old school, but Snow White was so intense. How old was Snow White? Snow White, first of all, was 14 years old, so when her mom's like trying to kill her and stuff, she's 14. Then secondly, it deals with abuse, and abuse is an intense topic for kids. Because I don't know if Snow White depicts it necessarily as much as Cinderella does, but, I mean, she has to be abused considering how her stepmom is so, like, mean to her. Just, like, with what we see from the stepmom, And also the apple thing, I think I would consider abuse, because it kills her. Actually, doesn't it put her to sleep? Either way, it's weird and it's bad. And then finally, Snow White basically dies in the end before she's kissed by the prince. Also, how old is the prince? Do I even want to look that up? I'm going to look it up. So, the prince in Snow White was 31.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Look, I don't even think I have to say it. There's a problem. There's a problem. The fourth darkest Disney movie of all time is Lion King. Lion King is insanely dark to me just because it deals with a lot of intense emotions. First of all, we have another parent death. And this one is different too because it has so much guilt associated with that parent death. Like, Simba literally thinks that he killed his father. And that didn't, resonate with me until I became older and I realized, wow, that's intense. That's really dark. To think that you killed your own parent is insane. And so the fact that that's in a Disney movie is insane to me. I also think the whole remember who you are part of the movie is super intense because it's like trying to find your identity. And as a kid, that doesn't really happen. But as an adult, when you are trying to find your identity, you resonate with it more. The remember who you are part of the movie is basically telling him, hey, you're not a monster. You didn't do this thing that you thought you did. You don't need to hate yourself. Remember who you are. You are my son. You are a good person. And I know some people may interpret that as just remember that you're the next in line. But I interpret it more as remember that you're a good person. And that is dark. And the fifth and final darkest Disney movie is Cinderella, a classic as well as Snow White. This movie obviously depicts abuse pretty dang clearly. Cinderella is clearly abused by the stepmom and by her stepsisters. And so obviously that's really dark. Also, just the depiction of her making friends with rats and animals. Some people may say, oh, it's just because she's so kind that the animals love her. But, like, for me, I wonder, like, was her abuse so traumatic that she resorted to talking to animals? You could also argue, like, did she completely, like, make up the godmother? Was that a illusion because of all of the abuse that she's held in her heart? Is that, like, her way out, but really it's her, but she depicts it as someone else? So that is it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you could give me a thumbs up down below. Also, comment down below other Disney movies that you think are dark and intense and adult. And let us know why you think they are that way. If you enjoy me and my videos, you can hit the red subscribe button and click the bell to get subscription notifications on when I post videos. I post every Friday, so every Friday you can expect a new video here on Elissa's Corner. And thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!